Because when we are a mother and we are, for you, Nicole, an entrepreneur and a partner, we have all of these, roles, and we forget about ourselves, right? So we forget to kind of get dressed up. And I know a couple weeks ago you went to a social and you got dressed up, you did your hair, you put some lipstick on, like amazing. And we need to be doing that more. I think there's a lot of shame in our society about sex, right? About being sexual and how that is perceived, maybe as undermining your intelligence, or your being assumed that you're easy or slutty or what. But what ends up happening is that our sexuality is a really important part of who we are. We are mammals, we are animals, and being in connection with that is super important, especially when we're trying to balance our chakras, right? So our root chakra and our sacral chakra is very much about our sexuality and feeling comfortable in our bodies, and feeling excitement, and how we interact with our partners, and how we can have conversations around sex and pleasure and about our bodies. And I think many of us struggle with that. There's so much shame around that. I think many of us, because we probably didn't have, I mean, I think about the sex ed, and a lot of you have been following me, and this week was Sexual Health and Reproduction Week. And so I was talking a lot about some of the myths around sex, and sex ed, and depending on how it is, can cause a lot of shame and embarrassment. And right, so, and I was thinking about, when did I experience sex ed? It was like, I was in grade 5. It was super awkward. It was a lot of whispering and feeling super uncomfortable without any acknowledgement about that being normal, right? Of feeling uncomfortable having these discussions. Did my mom and dad talk to me about sex? Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? And so, you end up, going through life and then being bombarded by social media, that is very much about shaming women's bodies that aren't perfect, and making judgments about women and their intelligence based on what they look like, and making judgments about people if they are super in tuned and open with their sexuality, right? And so we're constantly oppressed in that way. And so most of us really need to learn how to balance the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So yeah, I think that's an incredible card. I think it's, really, going to tell you to be a little bit more fun and flirty, take mom hat off for a bit, take entrepreneur hat off for a bit, and go out and dance and do whatever it is that makes you feel good and feel feminine and feel confident in your skin. I think that's what it means. Because I really, I think sometimes when we talk about sexuality, we think it's intercourse, right? We focus on that, and it's so much more than that. I think that's one of the biggest myths, is that, sex ed is about sex, and sensuality and is all about sex, and it's not. It's about so much more than that.